recording has started. Bailey, take it away.
Okay, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Well, you know me, I'm Bailey. I'm this local nerd. When I'm not running Archlytics, I'm probably doing something stupid like building a custom kernel or some nonsense. Right now, for my main projects, I am building 2 software as a service. One of them is to help people with autism crowd for social skills, which is really dumb, which is on I'm getting into contributing to LunarVim a lot, and I'm probably going to fork LunarVim to be my own custom Vim distribution designed explicitly for building either native mobile programs or games in the Godot game engine, which I also helped develop because I'm a very big nerd. So this just stop with the script. So why would you guys want to use? Oh yeah, sure. So we all know what Vim is, but how did it come about? So it was the original text editor for Unix back in the 70s. Vim is by improved. We all know this. I think we know this. How many of us know this? Raise your hand. Okay. Well, okay.
Yep. Sorry.
Only 3 of you. 4. So Vim is by improved. Vim is simply added plugin and syntax support as far as I can read. If the documentation is wrong, and the people here are much better at this than me, please don't kill me. Neovim is adding, I can't speak today, Lua for a plugin instead of Vimscript, which I like better because it's easier to read and write Lua than it is to write Vimscripts because it's like Bash, and I have a hatred of Bash. And the LSP protocol allows you to use Vim everywhere if you want to use Neovim, your Neovim config in Godot Game Engine, IDE, or Android Studio, or Visual Studio Code, or whatever. It's right there wherever you want. Okay. This is how Vim is easily configurable, and it's very ergonomical. I don't have as much hand in my hand as I used to as a kid, programming on a crappy keyboard on a gateway running Windows 2000 before I put the Ubuntu, sorry, Debian on it. Any questions so far? Or am I very bland?
You're doing good.
Okay, thank you. Well, I feel it's a mixture of the two because I get a tearing pain like right here when I'm using Android Studio a lot. And of course, I know I'm probably sitting at my desk for far too long when I'm building my Android app, but it's still 8 hours passes very quickly when you're obsessed with your work. So not having to constantly grab my mouse and have everything be keyboard-based really saves a lot of arm pain. And since all the navigation commands are the home row, and inserting and append mode, add mode, append, prepend. It's very just ergonomical. So there's actually a hilarious meme, which I tried to fit in here, but my slideshow tool broke, which was when you finally exit Vim. I'm something of a scientist myself. It's actually not as convenient to exit Vim as other programs at first, because you would think, Control-C for a terminal program. No. Shift-Q. Or WQ, Q, if you really want to quit and ignore your savings.
And I think the fancy term for that is that it's a modal editor, which folks aren't as used to it anymore.
Yeah, it is weird. How do people use Emacs? That's the other famous modal editor.
I don't actually use it. I have been on Team Vim for 25 years.
You know the joke, Emacs is a great operating system, only lacking a decent editor? It's true. The keyboard bindings will make your hands in constant chronic pain within a week of using it, and there is a Linux tiling window manager that turns Emacs into your desktop environment.
Well, if you're an old school 1980s GNU purist, I suppose you would be running your Emacs on top of your herd microkernel. So that makes a lot of sense. Anyway.
It doesn't just work with the herd; it also works with Linux, a microkernel variant of Linux, and I think one person's trying to get it to work with Zorin kernel from Google or something. It's weird, but this is not Emacs land. This is Vim.
Yeah.
Okay. Saving files is again really weird.
So there was a quick question. Someone asked, is there actually a hotkey to exit Vim, or do you have to do the escape:*Q?
You have to.
Okay. Maybe someone did that through their key bindings. If this person saw that, like customization.
That you can remap everything.
Right.
You can like a leader key for running certain commands, which I almost never use. Is usually spacebar, like in this, to pull up this custom plugin.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the plugin, it's a what was it named? Nelson actually is what people help develop. Spends more time developing this particular build of Vim. Can tell you more about it. It is. Oh, that's not mine. I have Vim bindings for my entire desktop environment right now. I'm running RE3 Arch Linux, and everything is a Vim binding. So I actually had to remap my leader key so I don't accidentally spawn my run launcher, not spawn that.
Now, Bailey, do you recommend a foot pedal key, or is that a bridge too far?
That is a bridge too far.
Okay.
Unless you
I'll stop trolling.
Yeah, no. Keep the trolling. I panicked, and then my mind went blank, and the whole list of dumb, catchy jokes went out the window. So if you're new to Vim, there's the concept of edit mode, normal mode, and command mode. So command mode is where we put the actual commands. For example, %. Tell you the and then let's see, and replace that with. This is actually how that's one command for find and replace. This is basically command mode, but my personal favorite command for command mode is you put the, and then you can run any command line code directly from this prompt. Doesn't have a good syntax support, but the one thing I like Neovim over regular Vim, spell it correctly. My spelling is terrible. Please forgive me. Can fire a terminal directly from here. Navigating Vim is based on the home row keys, so H, J, K, and L. H is left. L is H is left. L is right because they're on the left and right part of the home row. J and K is up and down. J goes down. K goes up. Hard to leave off that? Sorry. Any questions? Yeah. I'm sorry. I feel like an idiot right now. You actually can, if you have this configured properly, you can run any command line command you want to. For example, when doing this correctly, I don't know why if all of a sudden they can't use Vim anymore. I'll like git add some random file. It usually adds it. Keyword usually because I know I'm doing something wrong. My brain is melted today. That's what I did wrong. That's what I did wrong. User error. Built-in terminal on Neovim. Everyone here who is more experienced at using Vim at me is probably laughing. I'm looking at you rebuild it. Yeah, but you still have to go into insert mode in the terminal, which is kind of weird, but also useful. It is. It's
also then while you're in the terminal, same Vim navigation rules apply?
Yes, you can say like you go to the terminal to install a Ruby package. This is the Ruby meetup, not the Python meetup. So let's say you're doing Ruby on Rails project, you're trying to install a Rails applet into your Rails project, and you have to just, you can, let's see, Vim installed. I do have Vim installed. Vim install, type it correctly.
Oh, interesting. So it, like you're interacting with the terminal, but it's also kind of like a text editor window.
Yeah, it saved me a lot of time.
Yeah.
No.
You can like jump between words, delete lines the same way you would normally edit things in Vim, but this is a terminal output.
Yes. It's really quite handy. What was my presentation? I keep losing track. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. And this is unique to Neovim?
I believe so. Nelson, is it unique to Neovim?
Vim also has a terminal.
Okay. I'm sorry if I'm boring you, Nelson. I feel this is the most massive brain fart, and I'm embarrassed. I apologize. Okay, so there's no edit mode. There's multiple ways to enter edit mode. I puts you just behind the cursor. Capital I, for some reason, inserts the beginning of the line. Capital A is the beginning of the line. A is after the, so I is before, A is after, capital A at the very end, capital I, very beginning. So if you have to, I don't know, and some stuff, you can just immediately go to the very end. And the one thing I like about Vim, which I'm probably going to do a very terrible job explaining, is that all the keyboard commands, they're referred to as actions, but it's the combine them with other commands. Like I'm going to go 10 days, so up 10 or negative. Oops. Oh, that's. I forget that was a custom binding. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, and I am talking about that, but you can. All right, maybe some more water.
Bare bones. If you're SSH into just a server that has just stock bare bones Vim, none of this thing, and you need to like hop to the end of the line. I don't know. Maybe there's a go to the end of the file, and I should know. But if somebody
There
types
is
press
capital G.
Oh, capital G. See, I learned a new command. What I've done is press 65,000 page down and just forced it to the end. But capital G is probably a better way.
Well, yeah. Macros are also another better way of doing something. For example, we can, it's, oh crap, I forgot to record a macro. Whenever you bind to start recording a macro to, you would hit the key necessary to start recording a macro. I believe it's R, but I am probably wrong. Yeah, I probably am wrong. Hold on. You can Google that. I'm pretty sure you can Google that part. But once you Google a macro, it will record what you're typing. So let's say I create a macro and edit mode, and then highlight, and then it's like yank, and then want to paste it 10 times for whatever reason.
So that was a control
the
V
macro,
to do a
press Q.
highlight.
Thank you. Q, V.
Was that a control V to do the highlight? Yeah.
And then yank.
Which is Y. Are you going to
Q.
paste it?
Then. Looking at what I did wrong. Q. And then let's sign a letter. So let's sign E. E. Okay. And then yank. And then Q again. And then E, E, E. Wait. I should just hit E, right?
It's the ampersand. Ampersand E.
Ampersand E.
Sorry, at E.
Thank you. Massive idiot. And E. It worked before. Oh man, I need more coffee. I apologize. I should have had work at the top before I started the presentation.
You're cool, dude. I think you're showing like exactly how ergonomical this gets. Is like I think your brain moves at the speed of way faster than your voice is talking. And if your fingers are able to type like this thing is so ingrained in you, memorized, that you're like, when you think it, you do it. And now you're trying to think and tell and do it. And you're showing like the power of how fast you would be doing this. Like,
that
on
is
your own.
the main reason why I love Vim. I don't have to like stop and go, like, how do I launch the Android emulator? Once I get used to my new configuration, I'll just be able to run the Godot Game Engine game or the Flutter app or the React Native app without thinking, start debugging on this screen, and then go back to this screen. So I'm not doing this justice, and Nelson probably could do a lot better job because he's been a more active contributor to the LunarVim project than I am. I forked it and I'm adding a lot more stuff, and I don't think I pushed it over a week or something nonsense like that. So I apologize if I seem like a massive idiot. How are we doing on time? So we got over exiting, navigating. I attempted to do a macro, which is, of course, massive fail, but That should be the homework then. Write your own macro. And then it would record your keystrokes and then repeat the action the amount of time it took to do it. So like I told it to copy, paste, and find replace something. And then I said, do that 10 times on everything selected. It would just do it. If you're trying to, it's basically a regex pattern on steroids. Like if you're like leaping through a terminal output just looking for something and you want to find replace, imagine like combining find replace, greep, and a few commands in Vim all into one neat little packet. I don't use it as much as I used to because I got lazy with all these plugins, but for a while I just used bare bones Vim, no plugins, and you can do 90% of what an IDE does just with bare bones Vim, macros, and the built-in terminal. It is actually a configuration file, and I shall pull up a config file where I'll just look the LSP. Let me pull up. I'll do the same screen. Are you still seeing the screen? For Neovim, all the different plugins are just Lua scripts. This is one of the default ones from the LunarVim project. Find file. It's both of them. This is all Lua files, sorry. SpaceVim is probably a better start for people who want to use regular Vim and not exclusively Neovim. SpaceVim is kind of like Spacemacs, what is it, Emacs distribution. It's very much, it feels like Visual Studio Code in the command line. It's very nice if you just leave the default configs together, but if you want to use it as a boilerplate to start your own configuration, Neovim and LunarVim is a much better option because, well, just look at the code base of SpaceVim. It's confusing. Well, this project is you just add your Vim files here for what FD plug stood for again, but this is basically the rule set for
That sets tab spacing and shift width for CSS. So these are specific rule sets for specific file types.
Thank you. I was trying to. What is my trigger? Has to be high. Only reason why I'm so. Oh, that's a problem. I'll be fine. Yes, and yeah, he's right.
Do you need to grab something to snack on?
No. It's a little high. That's why I can't focus.
Okay.
This is how you set up. This is a Vim file, which is what your Vim RC is written in. It's a Vim scripting language. So you would. Well, actually, is this as intuitive as I think it is, or is it just me? You're trying to create a new function for a new keyboard command or something. You would write it in this scripting language. Basically, if you have a let's get out. This is default Vim. And I would set.
No dash.
Oh, mine. Is my spelling that bad?
Is it set numbers without space?
Well, there's always reading the manual. I don't want to look at the sponsor. What?
Yeah, set number.
Ah, victory. And a Vim, in normal Vim, you would. It's like your bash RC file, if that makes any sense. You would be setting your aliases, your default commands there, and it has the same sort of syntax of begin if, or like if ends with fi for your writing basic logic, and it's all just Vim commands. So the same Vim command you would write in command mode, you would put into a bash-like scripting language to configure regular old Vim, and Neovim is a mixture of Vimscript and Lua. And I find Lua to be more intuitive because the same reason why like Python and Ruby is better than Bash. Like the syntax is easier. It's all Lua, but it has a one command install for LunarVim, which is written by a member of the chat, Nelson. It allows you to just curl the server, install, and go, and then just activate, deactivate certain plugins. It only works with Neovim, so it wouldn't work with old-fashioned Vim. And you do have to, it does replace it, so you might want to copy it and save. Or was it updated recently not to do that, Nelson?
So you're using a Neovim, and Neovim supports both Vimscript and Lua. So you could write your config in either one of your choosing. All you have to do is source a .vim file or a .lua file, and so you can choose to do it in both. But the way the author of the project has done it, he's tried to move everything to Lua, and that's to take advantage of Lua JIT, which is the just-in-time compiler for Lua. In practice, it doesn't gain you much. It's a difference of like 20 milliseconds.
Yeah, it's kind of a dumb thing in my opinion. It's easier for me to read the code base. Like I was working on a massive Python Django project. There was this like stupid long Python script for my manage.py for Django project. PyCharm would take like a minute to boot up. It was that big of a project. While I could open it in Vim in no time.
So you mentioned yesterday, Bailey, that you need to do in Vim to do Neovim, but if you want to make it take the place of Vim, you can also update your bash aliases file to where so Vim equals in Vim. Is that
That is true. I, for this purpose, removed that from my Bash RC today, so I would be able to show the difference of the
No,
program.
that makes perfect sense. But I just recently, after you suggested that, did that on my own. So I'm starting to play with the Neovim. So thank you.
No problem. Okay. Never mind. I'll check for it later. Let me get the implant. So
Bailey,
where,
do you need to take care of something?
yeah, my sugar's a little bit off. That's why I feel wonky and I'm not doing my
Why
best.
don't you take care? If there's something you need to do to treat that, why don't you
Water
do that?
and insulin.
Okay.
I'm gonna go take care of that.
Okay. We'll
Talk
chat.
among yourselves and make fun of me for being a complete idiot.
No,
You're
you're
doing
good,
fine.
man. Go take care of yourself,
How are you
man.
Yeah, go get
Yeah.
that shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, I can talk about LunarVim a little bit.
Yeah, Nelson,
Yeah.
if you're willing, please.
Okay. So, LunarVim requires Neovim to work, and it requires Neovim to work because it takes advantage of a few things that Vim does not include out of the box. Now, these are built-in LSP. This is the language server protocol, Tree-sitter, and the LuaJIT. And so the first thing, the built-in LSP provides, it's basically a way to turn Neovim into an IDE, because it provides a lot of things that an IDE will provide. You know, from code actions to going to definitions to renaming files or renaming variables or functions. And so that is something that does not come built in with Vim. The other thing is Tree-sitter, and Tree-sitter is a way to do. It basically takes an input of text and it parses it into a tree structure to gain.
Okay, it's
meaning
coming down.
out of it. Oh.
I'm sorry. No.
So it's a way to understand the meaning of your code. So Tree-sitter is used in practice for things like syntax highlighting, whereas previous like Vim or other different editors rely on regular expressions for doing this kind of thing. Regular expressions in larger files are really slow. And so the built-in Tree-sitter functionality lets you parse the file a lot faster, because you're not when you're parsing something in regular expressions, you have to parse it every time someone enters a new character. And so 99% of the time, it's invalid syntax because you're just pressing a new character and it's reading the entire file. With Tree-sitter, you're just reparsing the parts of the syntax tree that have changed. And so it's a much smaller subset of the code that you have to re-understand. And then the LuaJIT, it doesn't make, like writing your configuration in Lua doesn't make as big of a difference, but the built-in LuaJIT does allow you to have your plugins work a lot faster, because you're not, I mean, the difference is 20 milliseconds, right, between writing your configuration in Vimscript and writing your configuration in LuaJIT. But that's 20 milliseconds that you save per plugin, or every time a plugin uses a function, right? So cumulatively, it adds up, and it makes things like using all your plugins all at once a lot smoother, because things like formatting, for instance, are a lot faster, and you can really feel the difference. Sorry, Bailey, you're back. I don't want to take over. Go ahead and
No.
keep going.
I welcome any feedback, because I almost had like a small panic attack when I realized, oh my, you're here.
Yeah. No, I'm here to support you, man. Just I
appreciate it. It's just developer imposter syndrome, basically. Thought it was passive. Nope. So
you want to continue with your presentation then? Go ahead.
Okay. I'm pretty much done with the presentation. I just want to go over the differences between pre-configured Neovim and SpaceVim. Sorry, LunarVim and SpaceVim. Again, as Nestle already pointed out, LunarVim is written almost entirely in Lua, and that's the whole project. SpaceVim is actually the way around. It's almost entirely in regular old Vimscript that has some Lua, that's reading from some Markdown, that's doing a whole bunch of stuff. And it's just a million and one plugins by default. And it does, it works great with GUI clients of Vim. So Neovim Qt, Vim, GUI Vim, GVim, whatever. It just works pretty great out of the box. It's still a lot more lightweight and faster than a full-fledged IDE, but again, as Nelson pointed out, much slower than LunarVim, everything in LuaJIT. I think I'm going to call it quits for now, because I've rambled on enough, and I feel like I've done better.
Thanks, Bailey.
Yeah, thanks, Bailey.
Sure.
Again, I am sorry, guys. It's just I messed up.
Yeah, man, don't be sorry.
Oh my God.
Man.
No,
Thank you for this.
Thank you.
Didn't go the way I planned. That's why I'm mostly embarrassed. Well, the dumb thing was I was going to take this. I wrote this in Vim, right? And marked out using Vim. I was going to run it through Pandoc and turn it to a slideshow. And I already had the directory structure set up. So when you would go to one slide, you would see the animated GIF of. Let me find that GIF. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And you. I would recommend, or at least copy it and rename it. Oh, what's the default? It's just nuke from orbit then. Where's that GIF?
So I'm curious. Like, so this is obviously I'm new to programming. I think most people here know that. Like, again, and I'm huge on like I've used Anki, space repetition learning cards to like memorize key bindings throughout like the majority of the software that I use. Because I'm a huge fan. Like, I don't want to take my fingers off. So how does like what plugins and where with those key bindings are more efficient than the either like built-in key bindings that you put in VS Code or inside of iTerm, etc. Like, how is it just like a one-stop shop, or is it the fact that like Lua is a bit faster? Like, what are the benefits here, and what plugin could I like take tomorrow and make my day better if I switched?
That is a very complicated question, depending on what language you're programming in, and
Perfect. Can we scope it to just Ruby?
Well, the language server protocol for LSP support would help, and that's built in for LunarVim. Tree-sitter, which for the reasons mentioned earlier, and just
yeah, that sounded a lot like something that I want every time I run Rubocop, is only to run it off of the Git diff files. I'm like, why isn't that just a normal thing? Is to only run like inspects on code changes if you're trying to run something that's looking at the whole code base, but you only change 4 lines. Like, why am I checking the entirety of everything? But that's just my own personal, like, I don't know if that's just the way it's done, and I'm crazy.
That's actually a good question. You use your LunarVim config and just launch Vim. No, sorry, the NVim. I cannot speak. I had that same error. Do you have the latest version of Vim, Neovim installed? That's an old version. I had to compile from source.
Yeah, it requires version 0.5. 0.4 won't work because it doesn't have certain things like the built-in LSP and Tree-sitter support.
That was my problem. That Premixer, sorry, your username is Rebuilder, right?
Yeah, rebuilt.
I feel like the most massive idiots when he, hey, do you have this version? And I'm like, staring at the screen for like 30 seconds straight, and like,
yeah. So LunarVim will, I mean, it has built-in Ruby support, but so there's different versions. You can be using RB environment or RVM, and you'll have to change your configuration if you're using RVM. But that'll get you pretty far because you can. There's a command to install your LSP server. So Neovim has LSP support for the protocol built in, but it does not install the actual language servers. It's on you to install the actual language servers, and there's hundreds of language servers, right? And from every different language, and so LunarVim provides a plugin called LSP install, and then you can LSP install Ruby to install the Ruby LSP. But I mean, that's part of the story. I mean, I still think that, a lot of the old tpope plugins are still really valid for using today. I mean, because like I still use them all the time. The tpope Ruby plugin provides easy ways to like edit your controller or edit your view or edit your model depending on what file you're using. And Fugitive is amazing, and a lot of his plugins sort of help each other out. Like there's one called repeat.vim that helps you repeat commands from plugins. So I mean, there's There's a lot of those old plugins that are not built into LunarVim that I use all the time.
And those are still in Bash, not in Lua.
It's in
So-
Vimscript.
Vimscript, sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Vimscript, not Lua.
those plugins are in Vimscript, yeah. But it's fine because Neovim is compatible. Everything you can do in Vim, you can still do in Neovim. They've just added a few features. So if you're coming from a Vim background and you expect something to work, it's going to work. It's just that there's a few additional things that Neovim provides that help you do other things.
So I'm gonna have to upgrade to. I'm gonna have to compile a new version of Vim, then drop
Yeah,
in my LunarVim stuff, and
all that stuff is in the README, and I wrote that part. Basically, I wrote most of the README.
okay. Thank you, sir. That is one of the most massive contributions to open source one can make. God's work.
So Rebuild, thank you, and again, sorry that I borked it and basically ruined your baby. It's
Bailey, what are you talking about?
no, I just
No, you're beating yourself up for nothing. It was great. Yeah, you're just relax. It was we all learned something. Yeah.
We're like, this is so cool. I want to install and start using this. That's called mission accomplished.
That's exactly it. I'm ready to go try it. So that's what this was about. So it's awesome.
well, if you're running Mac OS or Linux, regular Vim is probably pre-installed. Vi, if not regular Vim, is going to be installed, but uses Vi.
So let me ask, when I hop onto like my FreeNAS server, like old school BSD, and it doesn't have Vim but it has VI, is that literally old school VI?
It is literally old school VI.
Because it always catches me that it's slightly different.
It is, yeah.
But with Linux, it seems like VI is really just Vim.
Yeah, they on Linux by default, Vi is alias. It's just another alias for Vim.
Mhm.
By default, on Arch, I think it's actual Vi. Oh my, it is actual Vi on Arch.
Wow.
Ugh.
So I wonder how we get Ubuntu to release a newer Neovim. Is that something one can just contribute to, or does that?
I
don't
would
know.
say I should put it as a snap package. I should probably have a Neovim. Would it offend you, Nestle, if I just made a pre-made snap package ready to go for the latest LunarVim?
Why would that offend anyone?
Some people get territorial. I've met some weird people in my day.
So if Ubuntu users, people just don't know how Linux works, can just go snap install. It'll be great. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
No, I have a sense of humor myself. I hated stand-up comedy in high school. I was on a stand-up comedy play. No, it wasn't kind of comedy play. It was I forget what it was. And I was supposed to tell a joke. It was terrible. So
any parting thoughts for us that are?
Oh, I thought we were done.
I mean, there's done and there's done. So
start hacking at it.
So, I mean, I would say that if you have never used Vim, I would say start off with just the default configuration and learn Vim first, because this is it's always tricky whenever you're using somebody else's configuration, because it's not the default key bindings, it's not the default plugins, there are certain ways that you interact with Vim that you should learn before you use somebody else's distribution. And if you're coming from like an editor like VS Code or Atom or some other editor like that, there's concepts in Vim that really make you so much faster in terms of editing, in terms of reading, in terms of navigating files. And if you never bother to learn them because you're using somebody else's configuration, then you're not taking advantage of all the power that's already built into Vim.
I would agree to that. If you're... So what I did to learn Vim, starting 5 years ago, where I started to become really obsessed with Linux, first thing I did, right little playing with all of them. There was a browser game that is no longer free called Vim Adventures, which I worked all the way through. I did Vim Tutor, which is the command line tool, and then when I started using a tiling window manager like i3, I moved it from the arrow keys for navigating between windows to the Vim bindings, which is used to be the default, and then they changed it and they changed it back. So I would, in every IDE I use when I wasn't in the command line, I would use a Vim emulation. So Visual Studio Code has an OK one. The Neovim setup where you can use your Neovim config in Visual Studio Code is better. Android Studio has a okay. And of course, if you want to use Emacs for whatever reason, there's Evil Mode. Extensible by layer. It's basically Vim and Emacs.
So if I were to if I'm kind of a newbie Vim user, meaning I haven't done a lot of advanced stuff before, and I hop into like, I don't know, a project, and I just type like Vim dot, it's going to show me a directory listing. I can scroll down through, and I know I can go through and I can press enter to hop in and edit a file, or I can press P to preview the file. Like, what's sort of my best bet to getting started to where I might get something out of this to be able to like do some productive code?
Vim Adventures first.
Okay.
Not Vim Adventures, Vim Tutor first. It's coming out the wrong way. Vim Tutor, so you just learn the basics in Vim from the command line. It's the built-in documentation. Then just start working.
Yeah. Oh, is Vim Tutor actually a command? It's not even a website. It's a command. That's cool. So yes. Ta-da. Thank you. That helps me as someone who kind of knows what I'm doing, but really hasn't dug into it in a while. I appreciate it.
I am like flipping back and forth between the built-in IDE of the AR/VR game engine, Godot, and then I am like using Android Studios that I'm using, LunarVim, and then Visual Studio Code on occasion that I'm like, I'm just sticking with this. And
I love it. And if some of the more advanced stuff, you mentioned the plugins, like if we wanted to make VS Code or something, use Vim, is that configured via VS Code, or is that how do you do that?
There's a plugin for VS Code called Neovim. It's in the VS Code market.
Okay. I know I'm asking leading questions. I'm just, we talked about a few things. I wanted to make sure you got to share them. Case.
Project. Wait, present. Is that now? Window.
It's an
That
extension.
window. Share. There's extensions somewhere around here. It's just a Neovim plugin, and you have to configure it to use the like our server protocol. And then once you have that done, it's supposed to work.
Once I have that done, I can have a real editor, not this Atom junk. Excuse me. It's not Atom.
Okay,
It's built on the Chrome engine.
Yeah. There are GUI clients for Visual Studio Code. There's one started at Visual Studio for Vim and Neovim. Sorry. One of them is written in Rust, and I kind of like it, except for the fact that it has a ton of animations, and I hate animations.
Mm-hmm.
Except for that one problem, it's fine. But that is going to be a holy war I do not want to start.
No, that's probably wise.
I want animations. No. Ah. Yeah.
Well, since anyone have any final Vim questions for Bailey, as we're kind of, or Nelson. I mean, we have two experts here.
No, he is the expert. I'm just the poser.
No, you're not the poser. You're a presenter who came up with a presentation and did a fabulous job at it. I mean, and most people here learn something.
Yeah, for sure.
I learned things I didn't know before. That's called a success. You're doing good.
I opened up my notebook and actually took notes.
Oh,
I did too.
okay. Wow.
One must know their audience. Usually, there's somebody in there who doesn't know as much as you do. And if not, like the idea of what we have is no knowledge is like the scientific method. Things should be malleable. So our abilities to change what we know based off of information that somebody else is providing, even if they're coming from a less experienced area. I think most coders, and most of us have that mentality. I hope to be able to learn from anybody around us.
I appreciate that. Like, I taught myself to code when I was a kid, and I started again after high school for doing freelance web development, and then stopped again, started going to college, hated it, took a semester off. Freelance web development and building my own SaaS, and then I'm like, my digital skills are garbage. I can get a college degree with almost no debt because of raisins, so maybe that'll help with the social skills.
I gotta pop away for a couple of minutes. Feel free to say or keep on talking. I'll be back and check the room.
Okay,
No, it's just a family baby thing. Like bedtime. We're good.
Okay, I think I'm done with the presentation. I apologize for any confusion and.
We just finished bedtime ourselves.
So, how was your day, guys?
Stared at a picture of Tim